We interviewed agency officials and other stakeholders, including industry and academic researchers, held an expert meeting, attended AI conferences, and reviewed agency documents and other literature. 47-page document. It's a meta-analysis of existing data. Generative AI uses significant energy and water resources, but companies are generally not reporting details of these uses. Things also vary greatly depending on where in the US an AI model is trained. It doesn't cost the same amount to cool a data center in Texas as it does in Oregon. But it is not unusual to see new data centers being built with energy needs of 100 to 1,000 megawatts, roughly equivalent to powering 80,000 to 800,000 households. It added that 40% of that cost is just cooling the data center, a cost that's expected to increase as the planet heats up. I want to stress, this is not maintaining the power to run the AI machines. It is maintaining the power to cool the AI machines on top of the power to run the AI machines. If a model is trained in the northwestern US, where 44% of electricity generation comes from hydropower, the carbon emissions are lower than if the model is trained in the Midwest, where 38% of the electricity is generated from coal. These are the environmental emissions of Studio Ghibli. Sycophantic Studio Ghibli. The report also estimated the carbon costs of specific models. Google's Gemma 2 topped the list with 1,247.61 metric tons of carbon. OpenAI's Geppetto 3 came in at 552 metric tons. Training Meta's Llama 3.1 405B model has spewed 8,930 metric tons of carbon into the atmosphere, according to the report. But isn't Studio Ghibli worth it? Isn't it worth it? GAO report also noted that using generative AI as a search engine was far more costly than traditional search methods. One estimate indicates using generative AI could cost 10 times more than a standard keyword search. According to the GAO's estimates, AI is doing 250 million queries a day, would use as much electricity as 26,071 US households use in a day, and 1,100,836 gallons of water. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman joked on X earlier this month that the company was spending tens of millions of dollars paying the electricity costs to generate responses to people saying please and thank you to ChatGPT. Let's assume for a moment. Let's just assume for a moment, okay? I'm not saying that you have to believe it or that I believe it. Let's just magic button assume for a moment, okay? That there is zero impact to nature. There's like absolutely no negative impact to the world, like in terms of like the natural state of the world. We could use all this water, we could emit all the carbon we wanted, whatever, and nature would just carry on trucking. Okay, so magic button, we push that button and we all live in that world. Removing that factor, would you say that there are far better uses of this kind of energy than the uses that we get out of AI in its current form, particularly in terms of the cost of such uses? So just think about it purely from a dollars spent and energy consumed, and what could you do if you redirected trillions of dollars and all this energy before you on the screen, the water and the energy consumption, if you redirected it to other things that we desperately need? And then compare that to what we actually get out of AI. You could power Spain right now. You could power Spain. Now here's another element to this, which is you don't have to take my word for this. You can actually fact check me on this one. Our energy grid in North America, so that includes Canada, where I live, and where a lot of you guys live in the States. Our energy grid is already pretty fragile. There are a number of ways that have been studied and proven to be attack vectors or I don't know why I clicked on that, attack vectors, or from like third-party actors, external actors, or just internally where something just goes wrong and we suffer from a power outage, I don't think I need to point you to a very pertinent situation happening in Europe right now where power is out for a large portion of several countries in Europe right now. I hope everybody's staying safe over there if they're even watching anything online. But power can go down at any minute. How many people do you think are massively dependent on AI? And what happens if the power goes out? What happens if the power goes out? What happens if we lose access to the amount of water that we need to operate even at a nominal level? What happens to AI then? And what happens to all the people who are dependent on it? I just don't see how you can say that there is value in the amount of money and energy and all of the costs that come into play with AI and how we're getting a return of appropriate value based on that. I just don't see how. The safety of generative AI systems is also inherently challenging, it said. These systems largely remain black boxes, meaning even the designers do not fully understand how the systems generate outputs. Without a deeper understanding, developers and users have a limited ability to anticipate safety concerns and can only mitigate problems as they arise, which means people can only be reactive instead of proactive. Some of the harms that we see firsthand. People have used generative AI to make non-consensual porn of classmates, coworkers, celebrities, and strangers. People have 404'd themselves after long conversations with AI companions. AI slop is filling up the internet like an invasive species of plant strangling an estuary, typo squatting, slop squatting, non-factual or incomplete answers, etc., 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 etc. There's all kinds of issues. And these companies are not being transparent. And they're not being transparent about the amount of power that they even use. It said so, I think somewhere up here. Where did it say? It said, I can't find it right now, but they said it exactly on this article that the companies that run these AI systems are also not providing all of the data that they should be providing in terms of the actual energy consumption, which means this data could even be underreported. And I think this is actually a really good tweet from Travis. When it comes to vibe coding, all I can think is violently improvised, barely engineered. At this cost. So this is like a really damning report that I kind of wanted to end today's news stream on, because I think it highlights, this is so true. What the heck are we getting out of AI that it's worth all of this, that it's worth the trillions of dollars? I just don't see the value. There's no value in it. But we seem to have Stockholm syndrome where we just double down and we're okay with this behavior, the sycophantic behavior. We're okay with secret, social manipulation. We're okay with this. We're okay with some of these data breaches are linked to exactly what we said before, which is the use of AI to get into have access to these things. We seem to be okay with all this. And yet somehow it's not surprising. Because if you look at what's happened in the tech industry in the past 10-ish years, this behavior seems to be really prevalent, where people don't think about the things they're using or why or how or the long-term consequences of them. Nobody cares. People just gloss over this stuff. So I guess I'm not as surprised as I could be. Yeah, the butt plug IO thing. I remember that. Yeah, you guys don't know about this? When there is life-ending actions due to computer interactions, mind you, in the global percent is probably very small, but life really should be valued much higher. I mean, I would argue that, Chief, I've argued this just even without AI. I've literally argued this from a programmers need to have first principle awareness of what they're doing because it affects real people's lives. Seriously. And I think I've proven that. and I will continue to prove it. I have a backlog of enlightened programming articles, like journals and academic studies that I have to get back on that.